etc., you might find interesting things on your pictures. Orbs, smoke, figures in the background, all sorts of things we find on pictures down here. Now you can get that anywhere in the vaults, but for some reason, and I really don't know why, for some reason, photos taken looking up this way, towards the end of the corridor, seem to be the most likely to have weird stuff on them when you get them home. I've seen so many strange photos taken looking up that way. I've seen columns of smoke, I've seen what look like faces, all manner of things on photos taken looking up that way. So I really don't know why, but if you are looking for spirit photography, for anything like that, a couple of photos up that way can't do any harm, and if you get anything interesting, we would love to see it. In fact, you don't even always need to take the photo. I had a tour a few weeks ago, rather small tour, just a couple of us, but we came into the corridor before I even started speaking. One of the guys on the tour, he turned round, he pointed up that way, and he said, "Who's that standing at the end of the corridor?" He was convinced he would see a man standing at the end of the corridor. After a minute or so, the man walked up the stairs and disappeared. Now, it wasn't one of our staff, the rest of us couldn't see the guy. Normally you'd put that down to his imagination, except that it happens so often. People say they can see a figure standing at the end of the corridor there. And I had a tour, I think a year or so back, had one of the TV psychics on, Sally Morgan, and she came in. The first thing she did was turn around, she looked up there and she said, "There's somebody up there." So, I've no idea who, I've no idea why, maybe one day we'll find out. Now I also said this with the safer section of the vaults. A lot of people think that's due to the influence of the room down here on the right, that some of you spotted immediately we came in. So let's go and have a better look at it. We're not allowed to go into this room, but you're welcome to take to the bar and take photos. So let's go and have a look. Now here. Have a peer through the bar, have a look. What we have here is a genuine, working, modern witch's temple. Everything you see in there, that is not props that we put in to make the place look interesting or anything like that. There is actually a coven of modern witches in Edinburgh today. Now we call them witches, that's a rather informal term. More accurately, they are Wiccans. Wicca is an old pagan religion, and the Wiccans, the witches, their high priest, he's a friend of our boss, so they rent this vault from us in order to use it as their temple. That's why we're not allowed in, we're not part of their religion, so we're not actually allowed into their holy space, which is a great shame. I would love to go in there and have a look around and see what I could find, but I've never been allowed in there myself. And just for the record, I am not a witch, just in case anyone was wondering. So,
they come down there and use that?
yeah, they come. It's not sort of every day or every week, but there are certain holy days in their calendar. What they do, they all come down here in the early hours of the morning when the rest of us have gone home. So they come down after we've all left, they gather together in that room, and whatever it is that witches do, that's where they do it. I don't know exactly what they do, but everything you see there is all part of their genuine ritual equipment. I'd love to, but you see it's a pretty big padlock, so much as I would love to be able to go in, so...
pretty skinny, I could probably fit through there.
Then again, I'm not sure if they don't want us in there, it might not be a good idea to go in. You never know what sort of protective spells they've got or anything like that. Okay, well, as we go into this room, you will see there is a large stone circle in the middle of the room. Please do not step into the stone circle. Please stand around the sides, either side is fine, but please do not enter the circle, and I will explain why once we're in. So come on in. You disappear. So this was the original witch's temple. Now the reason the witches decided to set up a temple down here, well, they knew the history of this place. They'd been down here, they could sense the negative energy, the negative emotion in the air, fear, anger, hatred in the atmosphere. They hoped that by setting up a temple down here, they could bring down some positive energy. They could do something to help the poor souls trapped down here. Now the witch's sense that these negative energies, these negative emotions were strongest up at this end of the vaults. today, a lot of sensitive people do feel very strange up at this end of the corridor. So that's why they chose this room. Now this room was set up like the one you were just looking at, and like the new temple, this one had a door that was locked whenever they left. But even though they locked the door behind them, they started to find that when they came back, very often the temple was trashed. Stuff was thrown all over the place. Equipment was broken, mirrors cracked, and the whole temple was thrown into chaos. And those sensations, the negative energies, the feelings of hatred, fear, and anger and violence in the air stronger than before. And the witches decided there was some sort of powerful, malevolent entity, and evil spirit, if you will, down here in the vaults. Something dangerous, violent, that did not like living people. So the witches tried to get rid of it. They tried cleansing rituals. They tried burning incense, all sorts of things. Nothing worked. In fact, if anything, it seemed they were making the problem worse. As if by trying to get rid of this thing, they were just making it angry. Making it angry was giving it more energy, more power. The attacks became more frequent, the damage more severe. And those negative feelings and emotions in the air. Stronger, more intense. Overpowering. And eventually the witches decided they couldn't take it any longer. They all moved down to the other end of the vaults, and most of them have never been back. One of the exceptions was the leader of the coven, the high priest, a man who has the rather ordinary name of George. Ordinary guy, just happened to be chief witch. But George decided it wasn't right to leave an evil spirit loose in the vaults, and he decided as high priest, it was his responsibility to do something about it, to face this thing, to engage it in psychic spiritual battle and try to get rid of it. So George came down here one night on his own. This was before the lights were installed. Just George down here on his own in the dark with a candle. He waited in the middle of the room. For a long time, nothing happened. He heard the scratching of the rats behind the rocks, but that was it. Until about 3:30, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. Something else. He heard something, or was he feeling it, sensing it? He wasn't quite sure. But somehow he knew there was something else down here, something in the corridor, something violent, something angry. This is what he was waiting for. Not that angry. So, George walked over to the door of the room. Very slowly and carefully, he opened up the metal door. Holding his torch in front of him, he peered out down into the corridor. Couldn't see anything in the darkness. So George took a deep breath, walked down the 2 steps into the passageway, stood there in the dark with his candle still, peering down into the corridor, unable to see anything. But he could still sense there was something down here, so he decided to turn and look the other way. So George turned around with his candle to look up towards the other end of the vaults. As he did so, as he turned around, as he looked up at the other end of the vaults, at that point, well, actually we don't know, because George doesn't like to talk about that. What we do know is that after that experience, George told our boss, this is a very dangerous room, and we should not bring customers into this room. Yeah, because, well, you can imagine, I mean, saying that to the owner of a ghost tour company was worse than useless. Our boss decided that was a great selling point. You wanted everybody down here. Well, so George said, okay, if you're going to do that, we'll try and make the place a little bit less dangerous. So he came back with some of the braver witches, and they created the magic circle, which is marked out here by the stones. Now you may know the idea of the circle is that evil cannot cross the circle. Normally somebody will stand inside and evil can't get them. But apparently the process can be reversed. If you trap something evil inside the circle, it can't get out. The witches tell us they have trapped this evil spirit in the circle. It is still there. Therefore, nobody should ever step into that circle. It is dangerous, it is bad luck to do so. Now, I have never stepped into that circle, and I strongly advise you not to step into that circle.
You said it strongly advised, you didn't say don't.
I didn't say don't, I said strongly advised. If anybody does think it will make a great photo, you are very welcome to do so at your own risk. So if you do, if anyone is feeling brave, if you want, it's entirely up to you. But
Take an EVP.
if you fancy a photo, you're very welcome, but at your own risk is all I'm saying. So, you guys going for it? Okay, we have a brave man here. Take a photo, you may never see him again. Anybody else fancy it? No?
Yeah, we have one more.
I say, it's interesting only one of you got. You are going to do the other way round. Right, not just the one. So.
You moved the front.
Oh. Have a look to make sure he hasn't got sort of.
How do you check
I was going to say, you're going to get it home, there's going to be that ghost.
How do you check that?
Yeah. No, it's sort of a great shadow going through his neck, isn't it?
Oh.
It's in the open, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well done, guys. Congratulations. You're braver than me. I've never done that. If anything dreadful does happen to either of you, we would love to hear about it. And I mean that in the nicest possible way.
You have a Facebook page, right?
Sorry?
You have a Facebook page?
We do actually, yes, seriously. Yeah, the company has a Facebook page, yes. So if you want to post anything up there about your exploits, you're very welcome. So, okay, the rest of you, however, are taking the precautionary approach, same as me. So we're going to go down to the right. Please remember that big puddle. This is our final room. This is actually the most active room we have down here. A lot of things have happened in this room. We were talking about most haunted earlier. This is where some of the people have been hurt in this room. And we have had customers hurt in this room, I'm afraid. So we have a couple of rules in this room. First rule, you're welcome to take photos from out here, but please, once we cross the threshold, no flash photography in this room. And connected with that, those of you who do have cameras, phones, things with light screens, please switch them off if you can. If not, bury them deep into a pocket or a bag. Basically, we are keeping the light down to an absolute minimum of just one guide torch. Personally, I'd rather we didn't even have that. We have to have at least that. We'll explain all that once we're in. It is really safe. Leave the lights off. So that's the rules. A piece of advice, not a rule. You'll find today the right-hand side of the room is incredibly wet. So you probably want to stay on to the left-hand side of the room. It's a big room, there's plenty of space. Okay, let's do it. So, this is the most active room we have down here. A lot of things have happened in this room. In particular, we've had a lot of poltergeist activity in this room. And that is the reason for the rules about the lights. We do have a light in here, we have given up even trying to put a bulb in. Whenever we do, the bulb gets smashed. And according to the mediums and psychics, that's the poltergeist. He doesn't like the light, he attacks light. Hence the rule about minimising light for safety. Now the poltergeists have been here for a long time, but recently we've had something new reported. Customers have started reporting seeing a figure in the upper vault. They've seen the figure of a young woman with shoulder-length hair. She stands there in the upper vault with her hands over her eyes. But even though her eyes are covered, it feels as if she's staring right through you. Now what these people don't know is the same figure has been seen for a long time in the pub, which is down below where we are now. She's been seen in the corridors of the pub. Normally she just stands there and ignores everybody, but occasionally it's as if she recognises somebody. When that happens, there's a sound like a crack of thunder. She takes her hands to her eyes, she opens her mouth and she screams. Now you've probably heard of the Banshee. It's an Irish name from Banshee, evil spirit. And the wail of the Banshee brings death. We don't know why she started coming up here to our vaults. We can only assume she's waiting for somebody, maybe one of our customers, and one day on one of these tours when the right person is here, she will appear with her deathly wail. Now, a month or so back we had Friday the 13th, an unlucky day. I was convinced that would be the day somebody would be hurt on one of these tours. I was wrong. Nobody was hurt that day. We got through that day okay. But I'm still convinced it's just a matter of time, and one of these days or one of these tours, somebody is going to be hurt. I do not like this room. I think this is probably one of the most dangerous rooms in the whole of the city. Therefore, I do not intend to be the last person out of this room.
Take a picture of me outside. Take a picture of me. No, from the outside. Oh. I'm gonna get the.
Now, please watch your head as we come down here again.
Are you mad, bro?